So
We hopefully.
we
Yeah.
will, as we get going here a little bit, just FYI, the chat, you should have a chat feature on Zoom. So I've got it opened up. If you would like to ask a question or something, you can chat privately with any individual, or you can open it up to the entire group, however you want to. But you can communicate that way. Sometimes with a larger group, it's easier to ask questions via chat, and we can get to those than it is trying to do it through unmuting. I will try to keep everybody muted for the most part outside of Cheryl and Lee, who basically I'm relying a lot on to lead this meeting. They've got some good stuff for you. And I know Cheryl had a meeting this morning, which is why we moved it to 3 o'clock. And much of what she talked about this morning, I think, will be helpful for us this afternoon. I've also brought some additional people on board. Peter Craigie is on with us. He is not an early childhood director. He is our business person from the Missouri district. And I asked him to hop on board because there could be some financial questions you may have or some employment questions and so on. So he can help out. You see Martha Shalene is on with us as well. Martha, you interact with an awful lot with paperwork and some other items. So it's a good opportunity for you to see Martha and for Martha to see all of you. And then people will probably keep hopping in and out, I would imagine. Every now and then I might change my background because it keeps me, hopping and doing some things. We'll see what else I have up there. With that said, I know time is always precious. So I invited Marty Haas to the party here too. I don't see Marty on board yet. Marty is the new Gene Wisman at the Missouri District and responsible for a church worker care team. So I asked him to hop on board if he can at some point to be a resource to our workers. If anyone is feeling anxious or concerned or has feelings of being overwhelmed, whatever is the case, whether it be any of you or your workers, or if you know someone that maybe needs to talk to an individual, Marty is the resource for that. And we have other church worker care team resources also that can go out to you in that regard. So with that said, let me go ahead and I will start us in prayer, and then I'll kind of turn it over a little bit to Cheryl to give us some updates and lead us in certain directions. Again, use chat for questions that you have and so on and so forth. So thank you for joining in here. We'll see what questions you have, how we can work together here and proceed in these interesting times, to say the least. And hopefully the shark doesn't eat me before this is over. So let's pray. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for this wonderful and glorious day that you've given to us, even though there's so many unknowns that we are experiencing right now. The one thing that we do know is that you were the same yesterday, you are the same today, and you will be the same tomorrow. If we cast all of our cares and concerns on you and utilize you as our compass, our lives will be fine, knowing that you have given your one and only Son to die for us so that we do have that wonderful promise of eternal life in your kingdom. We give you thanks for the early childhood directors, for the work that they are doing, the care that they are providing, the guidance that they are providing to your students, to their ministries, to the community at large. I ask that you support them, uplift them, comfort them, provide for their needs, allow them to know that you are truly walking with them in all that they do. They are not alone. All they need is to look on this screen in our Zoom meeting to see that they have a large group of support, a large group that cares for each and every one of them as they care for each other. And most importantly, you care for all of us in the way that only you can. Be with us, guide us, allow us to do your work in your ministry in all things that we do. We pray in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen.
Cheryl, I'm going to pass a hot potato right to you right away.
Yeah, you didn't really totally tell me I was in charge of this meeting, you know. So,
Oh, Cheryl, you know how I work. You're not totally in charge of it. I've opened us. I've thanked
yeah,
everyone for attending.
yeah,
All great stuff. You basically, this meeting is to care for all of you. First of all, to say thank you. This is a time of unknown. If you have
mhm,
questions, ask it. I know I've fielded some questions about what do we do? You know, how do we provide any online learning, at home learning? What do we do in terms of tuition? What do we do in terms of part time employees? All of those are great questions. So we want to utilize the time to benefit you. So ask those. You can either unmute yourself and ask it or type it in the chat line, and I'll tell your question to the entire group and we'll try to answer it.
yeah.
Like I said, Cheryl's done a great job of being in all kinds of meetings here lately. So she brings wealth from our national office where they had an early childhood directors kind of conference. I think one this morning from her school. She's hopped on some phone calls with St. Charles Health Department, so she has some info there as well. And all of you should have received a link to Google Docs where Cheryl's sent me many documents, and I've uploaded those to a Google Doc. And then you have access to those now as well that you can download and utilize for your community. So that's a short take
Mm.
there on some of Cheryl's items. Maybe that helps a little bit. But we're really here to help all of you in any way that we can. So utilize the time.
Well, I think every story is going to be different
Mm.
wherever you're at. You know, some churches, well, every church will present itself in a different way. Um, there isn't one sure way to do anything right now. That's
That's
for sure.
the sure thing that we know is there
Yeah,
isn't.
that's
It's
the only sure thing.
yeah.
You know, that along with God's always the same. That's correct. You know, my prayers for as I drive to work every morning, I have a Monday through Friday structure that I use for praying for my staff and for my family. And my only ask for myself is wisdom. and just trying to find that right now. Who knew that was going to be such a big ask, you know? So, anyways, we, in our particular place and space in St. Charles, our pastors and principal are committed to keeping us going as long as we can. Our teachers are all charged with sending everything in line with their online teaching template, their chats with their kids every week, and their blogs that they put together from home, pictures from home from their parents. Those are things that are happening every week. This is our first week to fully deliver all those things. Um, so it is keeping the teachers teaching. It's not keeping our systems working, but at this time, the doctor has decided that we will continue to pay for everybody right now. It might not stay that very way much longer. I would imagine a couple weeks might work. That might be it. Um, and our tuition hasn't changed either. And we've only had, I think, 3 people leave the program out of 210, I think, 200, somewhere around there. One was an early learning kiddo and they were moving, and the other 2 were in preschool. And I think they just saw this as they were done. This was time to call it quits. And so we're honoring that, but we're also not able to continue to have teachers contact them and send them the online learning stuff that we're putting together every week. So, um, but that's kind of where we're at. It's a day by day thing. I had another meeting this morning with the pastors and you know, principal and assistant principal, and um, those tuition reminders for April will go out this week or at the end of this week, and we're all like, well, what do we do? Um, and right now, we just thought we're still going to send them out. But in addition to that, Pastor Roland's going to send a letter that talks to people about, you know, the loss of jobs. And some of us are going to be okay, and some of us aren't so okay. And to make sure that we let him know that, because the more we can all work together on this, the more we're going to be able to save each other from, you know, stress and hardship. So it's still a wait and see kind of thing. Even to the end of the year, my gut tells me we won't have school again. My gut tells me we'll probably be done in May with our at-home learning. I don't know that, but everything I just keep hearing and reading seems to be that way. The county health department piece in St. Charles, they didn't really know a whole lot. I didn't think maybe we left with what's coming. We left with phone numbers to call, look at. We also got our names into their books so they know to contact us as well. But there was nothing new, no information. I don't know what you took away, Al.
Well, I actually had another Zoom meeting because they tried in the morning. I was able to attend that one, but the afternoon one, I had another Zoom meeting. So I wasn't able to attend that. What I'm hearing, and I've been in contact with all kinds of people, whether it be, Lutheran or with Bo Cape Catholic schools and our Christian schools and so on. And right now, it is likely that we will be finishing the school year in an e-learning format, at-home learning, modified learning environment, whatever you want to call it. Although right now, I will throw one hesitation in there. This is impacting the economy in such a significant way that there is some discussion about bringing people back to work in 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. Let it go through 2 cycles. Um, so that could alter some things down the road. That could alter May and what happens. I think we're probably looking at least through April. May, I would say right now is a question mark because of the significant impact on the economy and what that will look like. Early childhood, probably one of the greatest impact is what do you do with your hourly employees? Guidance on that has been that if you can continue to pay them, great. Many of our early childhood centers cannot. Or can you pay for 2 weeks? At some point, you don't have revenue coming in. You have your expenses. We know that can't continue forever. Guidance is that when you do release an employee, because of that they go and file for unemployment insurance. Many of our places do not pay into unemployment. We know that, which is fine. Guidance from attorneys and from other agencies is to have them still file for unemployment, because that is where the federal government will seek to provide financial relief to individuals. So while they're normally not able to collect unemployment, this could be one of the cases where they get some kind of financial relief from the federal government. So do make sure that happens. There could be financial relief coming from some legislation for early childhood centers. That's an unknown at this point, but it could happen. One of the documents I sent out was keep track of your expenses. Anything that you are doing to connect at home, if you're doing any sort of e-learning whatsoever, if you've had to put money out for technology, if cleaning the building because of this, whatever, keep a spreadsheet and keep track of your expenses. The government might provide financial relief for that. They may not, but if you do not keep track of your expenses, we know that you won't get financial relief. Pete, I see that you want to chime in there. Go for it.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that on the unemployment side of things, I was poking around on the FEMA website a little bit, and it seems like FEMA is the way to go for unemployment benefits. So that's something to keep in mind.
So explain a little bit more, Pete, in terms of how to go the FEMA route.
Well, just from what I could tell, and again, I was just poking around, you go to the FEMA website, and there's an unemployment section there. And what it says is that if you've been unemployed because of COVID-19, that would then qualify you. That is, anybody who's not normally eligible for unemployment might be eligible because of the emergency. And so that's why I would suggest that route in addition to just going to the unemployment office. I suggest doing both.
Okay, one of the questions out there is nonprofit organization. Do we qualify for the bills currently waiting for approval for staff without wages, etc.? Probably need a little bit more on that. What I'm sensing is you're asking for the bills that are right now stalled in the United States Senate in terms of relief. CAPE Council of American Private Education, and we have a chapter here in Missouri, Missouri Cape. Our organizations are battling for our schools to be included in that. Early childhood through high schools that are non-public schools. We won't know until they're approved if we are or if we're not. But yes, the push is being made on a national level. Every day, starting last, I want to say last Tuesday, I'm sure all of you are feeling the same, where time kind of runs together right now, and it's hard to keep track of what day or what email. But I think it started last Tuesday. CAPE has had a national meeting every day for 1 hour. And we have been a part of that. We have an executive director for MoCAPE who has been on those meetings and has been letting me know. I actually serve as our president of Missouri CAPE. So she and I have been talking every day as well, trying to find out what's going on. They're really good at saying nothing at those meetings. Every now and then they have some kind of a wisdom to provide. The things that have been good have been discussed, apply for unemployment, that they are lobbying senators and members of the House to remember to include non-public schools, especially faith-based schools, in legislation that gets passed for the stimulus package. And again, I wish I could say yes or no. No, our voice is there. It's being heard. Until the actual bill is passed, who knows? One of our greatest concerns in the Missouri district nationally with Lutheran schools are our early childhood centers. You run on incredibly thin margins. You're staffed with a lot of part-time workers. You're staffed with hourly workers. We recognize all of that. We're fighting for you, but I have no great answers for you in terms of shoring up the finances. I will say that there are discussions about small business administration providing low interest loans to try to get schools, early childhood centers through this time. LCEF is also working on this. I'm going to type Casey Carlson's name here in the chat box. I encourage you to contact Casey to see if there's anything from LCEF in terms of loans or interest only if you already have a loan, payments or no payments for a while, whatever the case may be. Contact Casey and he will help guide you with LCEF relief questions. They are looking, I know, at providing loans, low interest loans, no interest loans, even perhaps. We got a message from Bart Day earlier today letting us know that he is going to send something out to education executives as well with hopes of some type of a program. And again, we know those are loans. We may not have all the answers here, but we'll certainly provide you what we do know and let you know what we don't know. These are times that are changing. I had a Zoom meeting earlier today, and I figured by the time I'm done with the Zoom meeting, everything I just said was probably not even pertinent anymore because things are changing so quickly.
Yeah, you're right. How are things going out there with everybody else? I mean, how are things working or not working? Anybody?
Missy, were you waving or I'll unmute? Oh,
Thanks.
there you go.
We're in a fortunate position where we had some savings built up to possibly build on. So I've been able to suspend taking tuition. I only said through April 13th because I kind of felt April 6th wasn't enough, but I was even wrong there. And so our plan is to pay our staff at 80%, but after that, is anybody, have an idea what I should do after that? Anybody drop into 50 or? I don't know.
I think Bev from St. Paul de Pere, I don't know if she's on or not, she mentioned paying 50% already. I think they
Okay.
spent the first 2 weeks and did not ask parents for any tuition for 2 weeks. And they
Okay.
paid the salaries to 50 already. What she'll do next, I don't know. But that was just for the first 2 weeks. I know that she had sent that out.
Okay.
We have currently gone to, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I just say we also open it up for parents to make donations if they felt moved to, and we've taken in a couple $1,000s to help pay the employees, but I have about 35 people. And I just feel like I'm supposed to take care of them, but still be wise.
Yep. For sure.
Right. Missy, can I ask you, are all of your staff hourly?
The bulk of my staff is hourly. Myself and the assistant director are salary, and 3 of our 3 degreed preschool teachers are salary.
Okay.
So they only work through the school year, so they'll finish out their year, but that's, I don't know what after that.
Right. Well, I'm in that same position. Well, I'm the only salaried at this point, but
Let's stop.
I have about 22 employees, lead teachers and assistants, and they're all hourly. So yeah, making that decision currently, closing your doors affects our families, but our staff tremendously. So yes, this is very difficult.
Mm-hmm. And we did take a lot of our college help who comes in part-time, and we'll have that online thing that they'll be doing for their schooling. So what I did was I kind of hand matched, we have 2 police officers and a couple nurses and 1 doctor. So I tried to match them to them for help if possible.
Right.
Spread it out evenly, fairly, I guess. I tried. Who knows?
Are any of you still in session? Are your doors still open?
We are currently in session, yes.
That's really hard too. Our little guys may not be the ones getting sick, but they can carry it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's a tough decision because we're in a position where we're charging 50% for the families that are keeping their kids at home.
Mm-hmm.
So that's helpful. We're not at least fully missing their tuition,
Right.
but at the same time, I've got about half my staff that aren't getting paid. And if we close our doors next week, I have staff that won't get paid. And so this is heart-wrenching.
Can I ask a question? Am I on?
You are. Yep.
Here's somebody.
Okay,
else.
thank you. This is Linda Huning. I'm from Our Savior in St. Charles. Question for you that is still open. What kind of feedback are you getting from the parents? As far as, are they thankful you're open? Are they concerned that you're open? Can you tell us a little bit about that? Not so much the finances, but parent thoughts on the concern of somebody in your setting contracting any kind of illness.
I can respond to that. Currently, we have extremely supportive families anyway, but so far we've gotten nothing but gratitude and thankfulness. The parents that are concerned have already gone ahead and pulled their children temporarily, and we've just been in constant communication. Those families we've given 50% tuition rate to because it just felt like the right thing to do, even though it's painful for our budget. It just felt like the right thing to do. But as of right now, I've heard no criticism. It's only been praise and gratitude. So that could change as this worsens, but making that tough decision, like I said, it's kind of on a daily basis. So we're just keeping in constant communication with our families, making sure they're reminded of what precautions we're taking. I've made a list of how we're disinfecting and the steps we're taking. And that seems to be putting them at peace. We've put out information about what will happen if we drop to 50% enrollment. What steps will be taken if there is a case within our facility or near. So I think the communication has been a big piece, and it's so far the families have been very, very supportive. So.
Yeah, this might sound kind of shallow, but it's not meant to be. I really think that our ministry is based on relationships, and it's really those relationships that we have put together with those families, with our family, really help in these circumstances. So if we don't have a good relationship with our families, or it's rocky, they're probably going to run. It's the families, I think, that really sense that you are full of Christ's love, and you're impacted, but you love my child more than I've ever imagined anybody could. So those relationships right now they're really showing through. They're really shining. So, yeah.
And it is, it is a case by case situation, and it's tough to say stay open, don't stay open. If you
Yep.
are staying open, follow the guidelines.
Yep.
Make sure that taking temperatures, limit who comes into the building, all those good things that I think Kim probably put out on the list and is talking about. So make sure that you're doing all of those. And if you're not staying open, that's a tough one, because again, that's sometimes a wise choice too, because you're in that unknown land. The difficulty is trying to care for your community. If you are open, or if you're not open, one of the things I recommend, Cheryl, you kind of hit on this. It's all about relationships. Lutheran schools are all about relationships. Even if you're not open, I highly recommend that you continue to interact with the families. If you're not e-learning, so be it. If you are, great, but interact somehow. Send out emails. Send out. There's a great site out there. It sounds kind of funny. It's called Bomb Mail. I'll put it here in the chat. Right now, it's free for educators. I'm having trouble trying to spell bomb. Free for educator. Tack on the /educator at the end, and what it does is it allows you to send out video emails. You download it. It's really easy to use. You can do a video email. You can even type some words in after that, whatever. Send it out. Connect with families. Ask how they're doing, tip of the day, whatever. Stay connected. It's very easy at this time that if you do close and that connection's not maintained, they won't come back. They may not come back anyway, because right now we're talking about possibility of 30% unemployment rate coming up. Great Depression type numbers. $4 trillion stimulus will only do so much. So we gotta keep that in mind. I'm just full of great news today, aren't I? So it's our reality that we're dealing with right now. And again, early childhood, you're on the front lines even more than our elementary schools and our high schools. Your situation is far more complicated in terms of what's happening. But anything you can do to continue to foster those relationships, do it. If you are open right now, same thing. Send them out a little video of the day, or cheer of the day, or whatever the case may be. Maintain connections.
Yeah, before we released learning things this week, our agreement is to release them on Sunday night. And on Saturday, the teachers actually shared them amongst themselves to see how things look, and the ideas that they put in there. So be an exchange also, if it can help. But before we even did that this week, last week, some of my teachers were sending bedtime stories at the line to the kids. And it was just so simple to take a video of yourself.
Looks like Cheryl's watching Frozen right now. That's a great idea. Bedtime story, craft of the day. That's a short 5-minute craft, and you think of things that they might have at home. Parents are appreciative of anything that you provide. In fact, one of the discussions I've been having with so many people is parents are now maybe realizing what it's like to be an early childhood teacher, an elementary school teacher, a high school teacher. I love all these memes out there of parents saying we're having a fire drill, sending the kids out, or whatever is the case, because it's not all that easy. And anything you can do to help them. take up the time and provide learning opportunities for the kids, that's great. You know, I saw one teacher that's a PE teacher who was doing exercises early childhood and then like kindergarten, first grade, you know, taking 10 minutes and posting it for each kind of grade level, saying, here you go, here's something you can do with your kids. So if you have anything like that in your bag, pull it out, send it out. People love it. Put it on your Facebook or whatever else. It's a great opportunity, again, to provide a service for others and maintain your connections. Cheryl, did you unfreeze now? Nope. Since you're back on, I guess this would be frozen too. Other thoughts or questions that are out there? Isn't it nice just to see everybody and know that we're all in this together? I mean, that's one of the big factors out of this is you have a great community and you're with one another in a amazingly supportive environment. And we know all roads lead to Christ. So what a joy to be in this with all of you.
I have a question to ask Al, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, Linda.
Could everybody that's on again just let us know where they're from and again what they're looking at as far as tuition and salaries? I know I've gotten Missy, she's been awesome, but the rest, it'd just be nice to know so that we have a basis to go by of what people are doing. Could we go through that one at a time and I could start? So
Absolutely,
maybe
yep.
people
Just
understand.
pop in and pop out.
Okay. So again, Linda Huning, I'm from Our Savior. Currently, we closed last Wednesday, and the plan is to stay closed through April 3rd. We are currently choosing to collect 100% tuition for these next 2 weeks. We are paying our full-time salary at 100%, nothing for our part-time salary. So I would just like to get a brief rundown from everybody of what they're doing. It's good information for me to be able to take back to our board as we look on planning for the next 2 weeks after that, for the next month and a half, things like that. So I would appreciate that information from everybody.
I'm unmuted if I can.
Thank you.
This is Diane Coughlin. I'm at St. John's Lutheran in Arnold. We're part of a K-8 school. We were on spring break last week. So we're just coming back to this today. We are choosing to do 100% tuition as well at this time. Our faculty, we have 4 classrooms. We have 4 salaried teachers and 5 hourly employees. So at this point, everybody is still remaining getting paid. So that's been a blessing. We've only had one family pull out because they have children that are autoimmune compromised and just made that decision that it was best for their family. Our church council is meeting tonight. Our school board is meeting tomorrow night, and they are going to start making those decisions about what is tuition going to look like after these 2 weeks, and then what is staff pay, including our salaried employees, going to look like after these 2 weeks as well.
I can chime in also. I've already spoken, so I don't want to take more time, but I'm Kim Overstreet, Open Arms in Ozark, Missouri. We are currently open and running. We don't follow a school district's time off and spring break, so we were open during spring break. The hope at this point is to stay open as long as we possibly can. We have a lot of families that need us right now that need to be able to continue to work. And quite honestly, my staff need to continue to work because at this point, the families that have pulled out temporarily, as I mentioned before, are paying 50% of their tuition. I have lowered my staff to adjust according to the rate to our numbers. So about, half of my staff are not currently getting paid. It's for the most part, it's my part-time staff that are younger, so it's not as detrimental to them at this time. But if we close our doors, parents, there hasn't been a full confirmation on this, but typically when our doors are closed, we don't charge. So that's the expectation. So that's something we're going to have to discuss and process. I think parents are anticipating that. If they don't pay, we can't pay rent. We can't pay teachers. So it's a big decision as to, number one, whether or not it's responsible to close or responsible to stay open. Is it more responsible to address the needs of the families and your staff, or more responsible to close down and not, and stay safe? So it's a challenging time, but that's currently what we're doing. So if we close our doors, it will not be a good financial situation.
I'm Sarah Longmire. I am the early childhood director in Chesterfield, Missouri. We're in St. Louis County, so we were on spring break last week anyway, but we are now mandated to stay at home through April 22nd. So officially, we had decided to close until April 3rd. That was the first decision made. The mandate to stay at home just went into effect. What day is it? Monday? Yeah, this morning. I had an emergency meeting last week, and we had decided we were going to pay staff fully through the end of March. That was thinking we would get to go back April 3rd. I have another emergency e-meeting tonight regarding now this new mandate that we can't go back until theoretically the end of April. I have 10 employees. There's only 2 of us that are full-time. The rest are part-time because we only have an early childhood center, 18 months to 4. So the inclination is that we will, by the grace of God, through the generosity of the church, continue paying for our employees throughout this entire season, as it were. But to collect tuition is most likely not going to be capable because we're not providing services. We don't really have e-learning available for preschool or, babies. That's my inclination. The committee tonight might change their minds, but that's the feeling that I'm getting. So I know we're in a uniquely blessed situation in which the congregation that I'm in can afford this, but it hasn't made the last 2 weeks any easier. We're also not very electronically in tune, so that's been a little bit of a learning curve. I appreciate this BombBomb lead. We'll get that out to teachers as well. Just trying to email and use Facebook, but yeah, we have to be closed because of our location. So that made that decision easier, but the finances are tricky.
So I'm sorry, Sarah. So is it because you're in St. Louis, is that correct?
We're in St. Louis County.
St. Louis County,
So,
okay.
And so the original mandate was that schools needed to close for 3 weeks. So that was 1 week of spring break until April 3rd. Just over this past weekend, they mandated a stay at home, essentially. And I've read through the paperwork, and we don't have the clientele that would be allowable to have our doors open. Like, you have to have so many students whose parents are in law enforcement or the medical field that have to work, and we just don't have that clientele. And there's a lot of really stringent only so many kids, they have to be the same kids. It's not going to work for us to open in that situation. So we have to shelter in place. Yeah.
Well, from my understanding, we're right behind you. So I imagine, because as of right now, we're considering it an essential program for the needs of those who are working. But my guess is we're not too far behind you as far as shelter in place, and we will no longer fit that criteria. So that's concerning. Okay.
Yeah, right now, St. Louis City, St. Louis County, Kansas City and Platte County are the 4 that I know about that are shelter in place through basically August, somewhere toward the end of August. I have not heard of any others, but Kim, you're right. I mean, basically just about everybody is going to that.
You mean April, right?
Or April, yeah. I'm sorry.
Woo, okay, don't do that.
No, thanks for catching that.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Alan, can I ask you, do you know the shelter in place regulations? Like what all does that involve?
They send it out, and to be honest, it varies by county. So what St. Louis City has is different than what Platte County has.
Gotcha.
Even a little deviation between that and St. Louis County, I think. I don't think they're exactly the same. For instance, St. Charles has come out and said we're not going to follow shelter in place, and it's basically on the individual. We'll see how long that lasts. Some others might still hold out like that. Some of this is going to depend on what happens at the federal level too, because again, while they were pretty much, hey, we're going to lock this down and it could go through May, it might even go, I've been told it could go into September, where our start of the school year may not happen the way that we're thinking it will. But again, now some of the discussion is, do we just say everybody use your own judgment, and we're going back because the economy is tanking way too much and we can't continue to do this? So again, that's out there a little bit. I don't know. That's probably the answer to a lot of things right now, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't think many people do until they end up on a decision somewhere along the line and say, this is our best option for what we have.
Right.
Including all of you. I mean, you're hitting it right on. Each one of you is a unique center. That's what makes early childhood so different too than other places. Some of you have a school that you're with. Many of you are standalones, and your community itself, each one much different. So there's no one answer for everybody on this Zoom meeting, because each one is so unique. The best that we can do is kind of provide some guidance and say, here's some things to be aware of. We're not a lot of help in telling you definitives.
No.
Other than Jesus Christ is with you.
Amen.
That we know. So we know in the end we win no matter what. That we know. Anybody else want to chime in on your status or what's happening? And I'll circle back to Cheryl too. One of the things that was bouncing into my mind was what age level are you doing e-learning with, all the way down to the 18 months is where you start and up. So you're going all the way down to 18 months?
Yeah, if somebody ever would have asked me a month ago, oh, well, when will early childhood go online? And will you start when you're 18 months in preschool? I would say that is so inappropriate. Don't ask me that question.
I finally found a class that I match with, though. That's good.
And so we do it. And they are the 3 18-month to 36-month-old teachers are doing it, and they're doing a wonderful, wonderful job with the videos and sharing. Our goal is to share things with parents in our lesson templates. There are things that they don't normally do at home, like workbooks, like coloring books, like being on the screen all the time. And some of those things have samples in them that I sent to you. And there's just a whole host of websites out there to help generate authentic ideas to do with your children at home. But we are, and it's not perfect, but it's good. It's good, and it's keeping our families, I think, engaged in who we are right now. How long will it last? I don't know, but right now it's working and being blessed. So.
I think that's a good phrase, though. It's not perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect.
No,
People recognize that right now. We're working our way through it.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely, Marlena.
I'm Marlena Fennell. I am in Maryland Heights, Missouri. I have a fairly small program, but when all of this came up, people started freaking out. I have a lot of Asian Indian families. It makes up most of my demographic, and they really became very concerned and wanted to be put on hold on their tuition and all of that until we resume, which I understand. However, I do monthly tuition, and so I have collected the tuition for most of these families already, and we're closed. We don't have a choice. So what happens with all of that? My plan is if they're asking for money back and decide to pull their child, do I just have our secretary cut a check for each family? Or what if these families don't come back? Do you guys have any suggestions on any of this?
Maybe I'll let Pete chime in on this one as the accounting expert, the business guy. I'm sure he probably has some guidance here.
Well, the first thing I'd say is policy, policy, policy. What's your policy? So, what do you do when a child leaves in the middle of a school year? What's your normal policy? Follow that.
Okay. Yeah, see.
And
And then you go from there, and well, if you don't have a policy, then come up with the policy, but make the policy such that it's not just for now, but that it covers kind of the whole gamut of the way the policy should be in the future.
Thank you.
Well, and if it helps, we are I can't even tell you that this is the right answer, but I know that it feels better. It feels right. We're currently, like a lot of my families are teachers, so their income, are school district teachers, and so their income is not necessarily changing, but they're at home with their kids. So they're the ones we have gone half rate with. However, I've reached out. We're very close with our families, and I've reached out to all of them personally, and through group emails and various other things, making sure that if their financial situation has changed, to let us know. I have 2 families that are not being charged at all because they aren't receiving a paycheck. So we're kind of doing, we could follow our original policy, but this is such an outrageous, time that our original policy doesn't really fit with the situation. So we're really kind of following the needs of our families in a realistic, a direction, because obviously we can't have everybody free, or we can't keep our doors open. But those we know that are struggling. The rest of our families, again, are so supportive that they were thrilled with just going half rate. So, and then the ones that are attending are of course paying full rate. So we're just at this point kind of going by the needs of the families, if that helps. But
thank you.
All good answers.
Hey, Al.
Yes, Brandy.
I don't know how to get on here. Am I up there?
You're on.
Okay, good. So my name is Brandy Schneider, and I'm from Palmyra, Missouri. Currently, our closest confirmed case is in Quincy, Illinois, which is about 30 minutes across the river. And then our next closest one is in Kirksville. So it's not actually here in our county yet. And so because of that, we currently have a lot of businesses that are still open, and people continuing to go to work and so on. We actually closed our doors on Thursday last week. We have spring break this week, and so obviously we're not being affected right now. However, we are going to be closed at least through next week. We're following along with what our public school district is doing right now. We are a standalone preschool, and we service kids 3, 4, and 5. So right now what we're doing, we called a special council meeting, and currently all of my employees, which for us that's 5 when you're not including me. So we have 5 employees. The council agreed to pay 100% of their paycheck until our next council meeting, which is supposed to be on April 6th. After that, there's a good chance that we will probably go to a 50% a 50% salary. All of my staff except for myself are hourly. As far as our tuition goes, we have a flat rate for the entire year. Now, if the parents desire, that can be split up into 10-month payments. And so we do have some parents that have paid for the entire year already. We have some that pay monthly. We have some that pay quarterly, however they can pay. What I sent in a letter to my parents is that we will reimburse or prorate tuition at the parents' request. So as of right now, I have only heard back from one family out of 64 saying that they would like a refund for the time that we're out. My families have all been extremely supportive. Right now, my staff is working really hard. We have created a Facebook group page for each one of the classrooms. And so the teachers are making videos of them reading, doing like their circle time, calendar time, those sort of things. We're creating lessons, and we are sending them via text message to the parents, and also posting them on those Facebook pages too. And we've included links for videos and for pictures and things like that that are going along with those lessons. So far, my parents have been extremely receptive of it. They all knew that it was coming because they knew that the public school district was coming. So they all expected that to happen.
Thank you.
How's the support? Am I on mic? I am still open.
Yep,
on
you're on.
my computer was dying, so I had to go find my cord. How's everyone's support with the church and with the pastoral part that goes along with us? Because I see that as something that we all really need to have.
Looks like Brandy's got her hand up there.
Yeah. So I will have to say that, I mean, as far as my pastor goes, Wes Gerke has been extremely supportive, to the point that before our council meeting, he's single, you know, so of course his income goes really far. And it was to the point that he said if they're not going to pay their staff, he's like, I'm willing to take a pay cut, you know, in order for you to keep your staff. The thing is, over the summer, I had to hire 5 new employees, or excuse me, 4. I had to hire 4 employees, and that's a lot for me. I mean, we're small, and so you know, God definitely blessed us there. But I told them during the council meeting, I said, you know, I have workers who have spouses that work in factories, you know, and there's a good chance that any day now they could be laid off for who knows how long. You know, and financially they're kind of struggling anyway. And if we take away their income, you know, I can't promise that they can say, hey, Brandy, look, you know, yeah, I'm coming back next year, you know, and so I said, we've got to protect our staff members. My concern is that if we have staff that can't afford to come back and I have to try and hire a whole new staff over the summer, my fear is that we wouldn't be able to open up again in the fall. Most of my congregation members that were at the council meeting anyway were very supportive of us continuing to pay for those exact same reasons. One of the big points that my pastor brought up is that now is a very important time for us to look at ourselves as a congregation, for other businesses to look at themselves. You know, the way that we treat our employees really speaks about our core values. And, you know, we're a mission. We consider our preschool as an outreach program. It's a huge outreach program. And so we want to be able to, you know, continue to serve that.
That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome, Brandy. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, that's great. Now we're heading toward 4 o'clock. Any other questions at this point in time? Any thoughts? And my goal would be to have another one of these, so it's not just a one and done. I'll talk to Cheryl and Lee and coordinate with the two of them as our early childhood consultants for the Missouri district, and we'll have another one coming up. We'll see, maybe a week or two. We won't wait too long. By that time, it'll seem probably like 5 years from now.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Alan, something that came up this morning as we were just doing a department Zoom was the fact that we need to connect with each other. So, we're used to doing morning devotions together, and we're used to being there when we're having a bad day, and we're used to stepping in for each other. And so I have a staff member who's volunteered to put together a video devotion each day, and we're just going to take turns sharing that with each other, just so we can see each other's faces and know that we're still here just like we're doing now. So I don't know if you have that within your faculty, or if that's something that maybe the hourly employees can take turns doing that and get paid for it. I don't know.
That's a great idea.
Is that something that someone on staff could put together, or a couple people could take turns with, just to keep each other connected in that way? So.
Wow, great idea.
A great idea. A really good idea.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap up, and Diane, that is a fantastic idea. Maybe we can, think on that, and maybe we'll find a time next week and follow up and say, hey, how's it going on the faculty devotions? Staying connected, because you're right. I mean, you got to stay connected with one another in the school. You got to stay connected with parents and everyone, because it's so easy to disconnect right now and get lost and isolate. That's all we're talking about is social distancing, social isolation. We need to connect and be connected as one body in Christ. So we have to be very intentional, and more intentional now than we ever were before.
Yes.
I'm going to, just before we close, introduce Marty Haas, who Marty is our church worker care ministry outreach kind of individual at the Missouri district. I invited him to join us because I do want a resource for all of you as well, to say, hey, just in case you want somebody to talk to pray with, you can do it with me too, but Marty that's his position. And we also have a church worker care team. You just want to chime in for a second, Marty, say hello, and then I'll unmute you. I have that power. There we go.
There you go. Thanks for including me, and it's nice to meet all of you. It's nice to be in San Francisco this time of day. A nice sunset going on.
You're San Fran. I'm New York.
That's right. Got to cover both sides of the coast here, I guess. I am here for you. I'm for your church worker and congregational health. That's my position. Al, he takes care of schools and everything. However, he included me here just to make sure that you have an additional resource. I tend to work with specific situations. So if you have specific things that you want to talk about, just to talk over things, have somebody to pray with, like you said. Also to think about how you are integrating with the congregation and where your pastor and you might be working together or other congregational issues and such. So basically, the sky's the limit as far as whatever you want to deal with or whatever. I've been doing Zoom meetings with circuit visitors right now, mostly, and having conversations with pastors. But I'm also available to all of you. So that's kind of my deal. So Al has invited me to support you as well. So I'm glad to be here. Thanks.
Thanks, Marty.
And remember, we have resources to help at the Missouri district. So don't hesitate to reach out. Contact me. Utilize Marty. Provide Marty as a resource to your teachers, and especially people who are being released because you just don't have the ability to pay them or whatever else. And people are stressed now too, whether you do have the resources or you don't. People are still stressed. I mean, let's face it. This is a time we haven't been through before. I'm having discussions with people. What was the last time? You know, even who knows? It's just tough. So there are people that are out there ready to go and ready to help, including Concordia Plan Services, if you're on that, and the help that's there in terms of counseling and so on. So take advantage.
My encouragement also is for you as administrators to be in the Word, make sure and get fed, take some time to yourself, be in the Word and prayer by yourself there or with your families, whatever feeds you, so that you can be refreshed as best as you can. If you feel kind of stymied, what do I do? What do I do? That means that you need to reach out to one of your cohort members or myself or Al. You should not feel stuck or stymied. If you have a vision for where you're going, then you've got something to offer your teachers, your parents. But if you feel stuck and you don't know where you're going, that's the moment to reach out, because you shouldn't necessarily feel unable to move forward, but do expect at this time to lose some sleep. I know even for myself, it's just kind of rolls around in your head. What do I do? How do I help people? It takes a little bit more time to get to sleep. And so anyway, it is draining, but at the same time, recognize that it is a draining kind of thing for the sake of the ministry, and you're reaching out with the good news that Jesus Christ reached out to us and never leaves us nor forsakes us. And so we want to stay, hearing that from God and from each other all the time.
And please remember Lee's words here on our chat group: pray, rest, sing, laugh, and play.
Yes, and you just let me on, Al. Thank you so much.
Oh, look at that. I didn't realize you couldn't get on before. Now you're here.
I couldn't get on. Now I am. Thank you.
How about this, Lee? How about we close right now, but we close in song that you lead us with?
All right. I would love to close in song.
Hang on. I'm going to unmute everybody, and we're just going to be one big singing mess, because that's how it be in my book of things. So, okay, everybody unmute yourselves if you can. And I'm trying to go around here, and if it sounds like a big jumbled mess, so be it. That's part of the fun.
That's right.
Let's, I think I'm getting everybody. I'm having trouble with Cheryl. Cheryl's trying to stay muted. All right, I think I have most everybody. You're unmute yourself. And
are you ready?
Make it happen.
All right. Let's all join in together. This is the day. This is the day that the Lord has made.
That the Lord has made.
We will rejoice.
We will rejoice.
And be glad in it.
And be glad in it.
And all together. This is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glade in it. This is the day. This is the day that the Lord has made. That was great.
Pray, rest.
He has made this day, and remember, He's holding all of us in His hands. He is holding all of us in His hands, and He promises not to drop us. So that's the most amazing thing.
I give thanks for all of you. You are rock stars. You continue to make it happen. Blessings, and watch for an email coming up for a future Zoom.
Bye, guys.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Blessings.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.